So to pick up where I left off, it was Tushar Montano, the other my Red Book Republican felon that was employed by Walmart, which is where I went on March 24th, 2017 to go get, chicken burgers or whatever they're called, little mini chicken burgers or whatever. And I don't remember what happened. I do remember that there were two people that um, asked me if I was okay at some point, and it felt like I had, hit my funny bone or whatever in my leg at that point, and I didn't really think that much of it at the time. I thought I'd be okay. I just needed to give myself a few minutes, and then I realized, at some point that it was a lot, it was a lot worse than I thought, and I had to call 911 and get an ambulance to come get me, and it took about 15 or 20 minutes to even get on the gurney. And the guy inside the ambulance was somebody that thinks that he might have worked with my brother when my brother was an EMT. He had the EMT paramedic that was in the ambulance in the back with me, had brown curly hair. I thought he was much younger than he actually was. And, he pulled out his driver's license at one point to show me that he's actually the same age as my brother and therefore could have worked with my brother when my brother was an EMT and paramedic. And then at the front of the ambulance was this petite blonde who volunteered without me ever saying a word that she's from Los Altos. And she kind of insinuated or implied or inferred that, I'm one of those people that's always at the hospital and always in an ambulance or whatever, called frequent flyers, which is just not true. And then, once I got to the hospital at some point, there was another young lady, about 20 to 22, another bottle blonde, petite, volunteered that she was from Los Altos and was like, they might send you home. And I'm like, okay. And, my orthopedic surgeon and the nurse in the operating room and the anesthesiologist in the operating room who attended the University of Michigan, like my dad, and my orthopedic surgeon went to Stanford, like my mom. So they were both represented in the operating room. But anyway, so we had a good laugh over the fact that that petite bottle blonde young lady was saying that I was going to be sent home or whatever. But yeah, so it was Tushar Montano. And then I want to return back to Sharon Chapman. She's all of 4'11". Like, I had no idea. And, there was a time I was at Lucky's, just take Kylie, turn right on Kylie from Toledo, and then take a left, and the Lucky's will be on the right. So there was a time I was at Lucky's and I thought I'd seen Sharon Chapman at Lucky's. And I just wasn't sure because that person that I thought was Sharon Chapman, which was Sharon Chapman, was so short. I had no idea that she's like 4'11". And the person that I thought I saw in Lucky's was that short, and it was Sharon Chapman. So there's something wrong with that picture when you're being stalked by a judge. I mean, like I said, too, I've been completely stalked by David Badigan or whatever, like, on my rollerblades to Cupertino and back to Santa Clara from Cupertino. He stalked me in Safeway. He stalked me on my way to Safeway. He stalked me on the way back from Safeway. He stalked me to Grocery Outlet. He stalked me on the way back from Grocery Outlet. He stalked me on the way to my orthopedic surgeon's office. And I mentioned it to the Lyft or Uber driver, and he stalked us all the way till the exit where I get off to go to my orthopedic surgeon. And then, of course, there's Gervais Mark Ainsworth, who was stalking me while I was rollerblading on the back roads of Santa Clara. And there's only one explanation for that, and that is that Mark Ainsworth knows these two ex-mafia members. And Mark Ainsworth, like I said before, he has his pot thing going on in Monterey or whatever, and or close to Monterey Salinas or something like that. And he knew that whole Karen and Richard story in quotes without me saying anything. And Mark Ainsworth volunteered that his parents are from Michigan. I didn't say anything about my parents or anything like that. So yeah, definitely Ainsworth knows the My Red Book mob, Herbert Felon family. And he knows the two mafia members, ex-mafia members, Greg and Glenn Chappell. Yeah, and then, during the pandemic or whatever, Mark Ainsworth showed up at Safeway here in Santa Clara, on Homestead Road, 2760 Homestead Road. Yeah, and, Glenn Chappell, ex-mafia member, was sitting in the car. So, yeah, there's a definite correlation there between these two ex-mafia members and Mark Ainsworth. And let's see. Oh, yeah. So, what I wanted to say way back when, on that date that wasn't a date that I was forced to go on, when I was literally a minor, and Richard was literally an adult, that was in Half Moon Bay. It wasn't in Monterey. It was in Half Moon Bay. And, I finally got a good amount of sleep last night. So, like, my mind is working a little bit better, and I've eaten, and, yeah, so I'm a little bit sharper than, me doing this on barely any sleep. And, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for now. And I'll come back and finish some other stuff probably at a later point in time.